Wasteland is a wild beast. Those who try to tame it end up bending to its will. A culmination of humanity's failure to work together and prosper. No hero can reverse the sins of humanity's past, nor prevent the inevitable wars for the Wasteland in the coming future. And with everyone and everything adapting to a harsh new environment, it appears that war is the only constant. Because war never changes.
But will war change Lucy?
I'll admit I'm sometimes afraid that mean old world will change us instead. But then I look at my daughter.
My name is Lucy McClain, and I'm an active contributor to the well-being of my community. The entire purpose of my vault was to come up to the surface one day and restart civilization. It's Reclamation Day. It's what keeps us all going. And it already happened without us.
People are going to come after you. You'll need to move quickly.
Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. I've had a rough week. Practically every person I've met up here has tried to kill me, so...
You come from a world of rules, of laws. This place is indifferent to all of that.
Stand down now.
You would be willing to do what it takes if you still want the same things.
I'm simply going to harvest your organs.
Vault dwellers are an endangered species.
Golden rule, fucker.
You just give it a little time.
Hello Fallout fans, fellow Mud Beers, or anyone else who really enjoys Ella Purnell's Lucy from the Fallout TV series. Today, I just wanted to talk about the potential direction her character could be going, and how enjoyable it is that the writers are playing with the morals of these characters in such subtle ways. Which is hard to be subtle and deep in such a story that's so wild and exaggerative. Either way, the main thing we'll be talking about in this episode is how Lucy mostly has all the odds stacked against her, and if she can really hold on to her morals through both the physical and existential challenges she'll be facing. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into her morals a little bit. It's very easy at first glance to see Lucy as a goody two-shoes and naive character who maybe is extremely lucky in every encounter she goes into, not being fully prepared or ready for everything she's enduring. And while that is true to some extent, I don't think she ever could have fully prepared herself for the surface world of the Wasteland. I don't think she's necessarily as naive as people think. See, there's a lot of instances in the series where Lucy will go the cautious route first before using the morally righteous path. Some of this you can base on human instinct, but most of the people out there in the Wasteland that make decisions don't put much thought into them, because when you start to think, the direction of the situation can change drastically. For example, let's take the shootout in Philly. Lucy was prepared to take the information she needed and skedaddle out of there when the Ghoul was shooting up the place. But after staring at some very obvious symbols for motivation, she decides to do what's right and go out there and use diplomacy to talk down the Ghoul, putting herself in danger. Which again, she did not go into that situation thinking she'd be immortal. Then let's cut to the bridge scene. Lucy again tries to use diplomacy to walk over the bridge without anybody taking any hostile action. But if you notice, she does at first reach for her gun as she should. It's only after thinking about it that she decides to try and de-escalate the situation. Then you have the moment in Vault 4, where the guy with the harpoon had found her and she took that moment of silence and shock to splash him in the face with, to be fair, what she didn't know was something acidic, but still ran with the opportunity to try to escape. Then there's the more blatantly obvious where she was talking to Moldaver and considering actually putting a grenade inside the head and blowing everybody up, but then deciding not to because that's how she was raised. So yes, while all of these actions could definitely be seen as just normal human behavior, I think you also have to take into context the people around her, and one of the key reasons she even stated she does things the way she does, that being how she's raised. She was raised valuing the idea of Reclamation Day and restarting civilization on the surface. She was a big fan of teaching history with a very significant point on morals and ethics. And you could argue every Vault Dweller within Vault 33 was raised with the same goals. But it's very obvious in Norm's storyline that not all the Vault Dwellers have the same morals as Lucy, with Norm potentially being the closest and even him admitting that it's way too scary to try to travel up there in the Wasteland. But you also see some key differences in the morals of both Norm and Lucy. Lucy tries to give everybody she meets the benefit of the doubt, even if they're a direct threat to her, whereas Norm was always ready to get rid of the Raiders the minute they were a problem. This leads to our first huge division from how she was raised, because how she was actually raised was to be more like Norm, or more specifically her father Hank, in watching out for the Vault and their own and getting rid of any other people who could be hostile altogether. And while I'll save Norm's potential journey in becoming another Hank for a separate video, I do think this helps isolate Lucy as a character, because we already know on the surface you have either very vile characters who don't give a crap like the Ghoul, very malicious characters who probably just want to kill anyone in sight, that being the average Wasteland Raider, and you have very desperate and power-hungry factions like the Brotherhood of Steel. In this war for the Wasteland, every one of these characters have a home somewhere out there within the series. Whether it be the Ghoul in his natural habitat of the Wasteland, whether it be the Vault Dwellers in their vaults, whether it be the Brotherhood of Steel in their airships, or even just the average Wastelander trying to get by. Lucy truly is out there in the world by herself and the only one with her morals to carry. And it seems likely in season 2 of the show we'll see the return of the NCR, or the New California Republic. This faction are likely people that Lucy will look up to at first, and maybe even try to align herself with, but will very quickly come to realize that while the NCR holds on to some old ways of the world, the idea that they're still persisting in morals and ethics is not going to be there. So with all of these factions trying to kill each other, or just simple people trying to survive, Lucy seems like the only person who really does want to make a difference, or at the very least find answers. And while her goals and ambitions could definitely fluctuate throughout the series, I think it's interesting seeing her character's path so separate from everyone else's. The only other character being close would likely be the Ghoul. But again, the Wasteland is his natural habitat. Which brings us to the next question: will Lucy end up like the Ghoul to embrace the Wasteland a little bit easier? We already know that the idea of avoiding radiation is extremely low out there.
Water everywhere, and not a drop to drink.
But with the right amount of looting and stocking up on gear, and with the efficiency of a companion like the Ghoul, Lucy will likely at least make a successful journey to finding her dad. Now, this could be directly because of the Ghoul and his mentoring, or it could be because the Ghoul will inevitably abandon her yet again to the worst of circumstances. We do see a glimpse in the trailer of Lucy by herself with Caesar's Legion. Either way, I feel they'll toy with this idea for quite a while and really push Lucy to the edge of becoming sort of a villainous Wasteland survivor like the Ghoul, but I honestly don't think she'll be as bad as him, ever.
I may end up looking like you. I'll never be like you.
Not only because she said so in the first season, but because everything she's relying on people and humanity to be can be shattered in both her conversation with Hank and her potential return to Vault 33. See, I believe that in the sidelines, Norman's story will eventually end in Vault 33 and the hidden Vault Tech employees rising up and preparing for this big war they keep referencing. In my eyes, it's Vault Tech finally stepping onto the playing field as a formidable faction, and the birth of said faction being at Vault 33. So potentially Lucy will return after a hectic journey getting to her dad, and potentially find Norman being part of or even helping lead the charge of Vault Tech's ambitions to take out any other faction in the Wasteland. Again, she relies a lot on the morals she was raised with to carry herself and to guide her direction, so to see everything like that shatter around her would likely send her into an existential crisis. What could send her into an even deeper existential crisis? Well, this we're gonna be putting on our tinfoil hats for, so while I kinda don't hope it's true and is sort of unlikely, I figured I'd touch on the idea anyways. But that being on the idea that Lucy could come to find out, on top of all of this, that she is a synthetic. Now yes, that does seem a little bit weird, but I do believe there's some clues and perhaps some narrative context that could help build to this. Look back at the conversation between Lucy, Hank, and Moldaver. It seems while Moldaver is presenting her case very well with a lot of words and being very fluent, Hank seems as though he's holding something back, really just trying to get Lucy to focus on the fact that they can be a family and return to the vault. Now some could argue Hank simply didn't have anything to say, but I'd argue potentially in that moment Hank and Moldaver were playing a separate game of words, and that potentially long ago when Hank ended up bombing Shady Sands, he not only killed Lucy's mother, but he also killed Lucy. We know the technology of synthetics exists out there in the Fallout universe, and while it's mostly on the east side, it was a pretty large university that the Institute had stemmed from. Is it possible with the show's journey to each section of the games, and tying in the narratives from several of the games, is it possible that at some point Hank, after the devastating loss of both his wife and his daughter caused by himself, he decided instead to create a new daughter as a synthetic? My only real evidence to this is Moldaver saying things like how the Vault Dwellers in 33 were a product of a decision made long ago.
But do they know who they are? They are the product of one of life's tricky little choices.
As well as Lucy and that strange finger scene. Unless there's context I'm missing, never in a game have you been able to reattach a limb or anything like such so easily. Nor do many characters have limbs that are separate from what they used to have. Yet the Mr. Handybot seemed to laser seal that finger to Lucy's, and she was able to control it even at the joints, as if it was her own. And while these scenes could be explained later down the line, it could be potentially true that Moldaver was just talking about the Vault Dwellers for being so naive and hiding underground, and things cartoonishly heal in the Wasteland significantly quickly. Again, the Stimpack scene made perfect sense after Lucy got stabbed, but if anyone knows of that sort of fingering happening in the games, let me know down in the comments below. Another counter to this being the Mr. Handybot saying he just wanted to harvest Lucy's organs. But again, that was just a little side theory of mine. I really hope Lucy maintains her morals simply because she's one of the only ones out there who's representing them. And while I hope she's not a synthetic, there's probably many ways the narrative can isolate her even more. Either way, the biggest problem in the Fallout universe is all of these factions vying for power. Lucy is really taking up the mantle as a player in those very early hours, and not really being aligned to any certain faction, and figuring out the best way to navigate the Wasteland. This means it will take very significant events to affect Lucy's morals, who, while she still remains resistant to the Ghoul's mentorings, we see in the Season 2 trailer she's prepared to kill at this point. I guess our biggest clue will be how she reacts to her first official kill. If the narrative focuses on it or her reaction to such for quite a bit, then odds are Lucy will remain good. But if Lucy glides through her first murder in the Wasteland and doesn't really even regret it, then odds are she likely will end up as a hardened Wasteland survivor. Maybe not to the extent of the Ghoul, who has likely been spited significantly more, but definitely to the point where she knows she can't trust anybody around her and is ready to make the hard decisions she has to. Either way, what did you guys think? Are you excited for Fallout Season 2? Let me know who you'd want to see down below next, or where you hope the story of Fallout's going in Season 2. Either way, thank you all for watching, appreciate the feedback, and remember to pack your right away.